This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the UK's #1 coral selling website, prestigereef.co.uk, and reefdork.etsy.com for all your 3D printed aquarium accessory needs. What's up, YouTube? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Prestige Reef Dork Show. Today, we are going to be talking about, well, the original title was 25 Things Your Local Fish Shop Wish You Knew. And the idea behind this was, so the thumbnail, the photo of the thumbnail is basically what I thought everything was going to be like. Things like, look, if there are two fish and one is 25 quid and one is 75 quid, in different shops and they're the exact same fish, there's a reason for that, and there's more care gone into looking at those sorts of things, okay, to understand why there are price differentials, all those sorts of things. But it turned into what happened. So Ryan approached 10 shops, 10 local fish shops, and asked for input. And I think the people who replied, and we'll do it all anonymously, most of them said that you don't have to, but interpreted it in a different way, I think. So there's some things like that, but there's a lot of things that are kind of fish shop frustrations, I think, LFS frustrations.
See, interestingly, so obviously this was my idea, wasn't it? And I contacted you and I said, would you like to do this idea? And you said, yeah, I think it's a good idea. But my idea wasn't what you thought. My idea was, how are we annoying our local fish shops?
Oh, right. So that's why you got those answers, because you asked the question.
I got the exact answers which I expected.
I see. Okay.
And the reason I think it'll be interesting was because I've got probably more than 25, if I'm honest. I've not counted them up. But I'm interested to see how many of these, firstly, have we done over the years? And how many of these things do other people realize that how many of these things other people are doing without realizing that, like, some of them are fine, some of them it could be a misunderstanding, some of them are actually, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, totally unacceptable. It really is like a mixed bag. And as I said, of the shops I spoke to, I said, look, this will be anonymous, and many of them said, look, I don't need it to be anonymous because I would say this anyway, but just to keep things fair across the board, I'd rather keep it anonymous. Yeah. But, and the other thing that I did, I didn't just speak to the shops and with regards to the owners of shops. I spoke to people across the entire, like, shop, everything from people that are new at the shops to people who have been working in shops for years, to people who own the shop, to both male and female employees as well, because everyone has an entirely different experience with customers. And I'm glad I did that, because if I'd just spoken to the owners of shops, there's lots of stuff that I would have missed out. Yeah,
totally.
So yeah, that was it. I feel like it's been cathartic for me, if I'm honest.
Yeah, very much so.
It almost turned into like a therapy session. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of shops listening, just because, like, they'll probably be going, but this isn't necessarily a negative thing. It's more like it's like a customer service, like, not a customer. What do they call, like, an announcement? You know, like
public service announcement.
Public service announcement. Yeah, that's what it is. And as I said, many of these, when I was being told them, I thought, "Oh God, I've done that over the years."
there were some. So you sent me most of them, half of them, whatever, and I was like, "Oh God, I still do those at the moment."
Yeah. So don't feel bad if you do them. This isn't. No. But just be aware that, like, people that work in fish shops are people. They're the same as you and me, and you'll understand what I mean by that when we get started. But I know you wanted to start with, I haven't got anything particularly exciting on my week in reefing, but I believe that you have some stuff to talk about.
Literally just a couple of updates. So firstly, I've just remembered that I'm going to be away next weekend. I'm in France. Okay. So there will be no live stream next weekend.
Ah, you know, I live for these, don't I? I just wait for these 2 hours every week I get to talk to you.
No, I could do it from France, but yeah. So, and the other thing is, right. Firstly, Les has been helping me out. So my computer has crashed mid live stream a couple of times in the last couple of months.
Not good.
I know it's just really annoying because it's obviously video editing computer. It's like a powerful computer, and it's only about 2 years old, so I would expect better than that. But I've done a with Les's help. Les is a bit of an IT whiz, so with Les's help, I've done a reset. I bought a backup drive that's a backup all of my files in case it all got deleted. Did a reset, and now everything seems to be running well. So with a bit of luck,
like a computer whiz.
I know, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Cool,
yeah.
If I ever wanted like a gaming computer, Les, I'm coming to you. You'll be able to tell me which one to buy.
Do it. So he messaged me like after it happened first time round, and yeah, he's a proper nerd. So yeah.
He's probably be like, yeah, that's a £50 consultation fee, please.
Absolutely. So with a bit of luck, the computer's not going to crash again. But then this is one of those things where it's the first step. When someone says to you, okay, we'll try this and see how that works, because who knows what's actually causing it. And this is the easy way to do it. So with a bit of luck, no more sudden computer death.
So what you're saying is, if it crashes this time, Les gets fired from his work, from the job that he does for free. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly right. Yeah. But yeah, so hopefully, because I don't really want to have to buy a new computer, to be honest. So hopefully this will be fixed. And the other thing is, I've managed to fix video podcasts. So for about 5 or 6 weeks, I couldn't upload the video file to Spotify. You can only watch it on Spotify, not on other podcasting services. But I've fixed that now, and so from now onwards, immediately after the show, I will upload an audio podcast, because that's really, really quick. So then it will be instantly available. And then there's an option to replace audio file with video file. So by Monday morning, the video files should be available. It's just if you listen to it within the first 12 hours, it'll be audio only, no video. But that should guarantee that it works, touch wood. So there we go. And that's it. I haven't really done anything fish wise this week. I installed
it's sunny. Because it's sunny.
So nice.
It's nice maybe for you that it's sunny, but people definitely buy less fish and corals when it's sunny.
Yeah, this is true.
But don't worry, we're in England. It'll be back to being rainy. I think it's back to being cold next week.
It was actually a little bit cold today, actually. But but yeah, it's been lovely, and I've been doing lots of non fish tank stuff, so I haven't really got anything to say. And I think there was one thing you wanted to mention, right?
Was there? I don't think there was. You asked.
You talk at eBay.
Oh, I only that my eBay stuff's all ended. I put 50 corals on eBay, and they're ending literally probably, I can't remember exactly, but within probably the next half an hour. So they start ending in probably less than half an hour now, and they all the way up until 9 o'clock. So same as usual. I like to schedule it so that they end on the live stream, so that I can see, because sometimes people in the chat are saying I won this. So it's just, it adds a bit more of like a community experience, doesn't it? But yeah, I decided to put 50 up today. Just because I didn't put them up last week. So I thought 50, let's just, and I think there might be like a couple of duplicates, but pretty much everything is just one of each, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah. And the link is on, I think that my eBay website is just Prestige Reef website, but the link is also on my Facebook page, because I put a post up probably an hour ago saying, here's the link if you want to go find it. But yeah.
Excellent. And Les says he builds them for fun. So
I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like too much fun to me. Maybe if you were selling them for money afterwards, then that must be a job that people do.
Oh,
because computers are things where people just don't know. Like I would have no idea where to start. So, but the only other thing you asked me to remind you of, because I know we're quickly rattling through the start of this, is you wanted to do member questions, didn't you? Otherwise, you'll forget.
Indeed. So we're going to do that first, and then we'll move on to, because the headline topic is going to take quite a while, and there's a lot of news to get through.
And we ran out of time last week, didn't we? So that's why I said let's like not do all the other stuff we normally do. Let's focus on.
I've actually, because of that, I've cut one of the news stories. There was a news story about wrasses using tools, and I cut it because it's actually not. It was been on Attenborough before, and
yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, there you go. I've uncut it. Right, member questions. There are 2 this week. First one is from Bish Bash Ash, and he says someone has a gun to both your head and Ryan's head, forcing you to keep a pico tank. Which corals would you both choose?
Do you say? Sorry, I coughed when you said that. Would you say a pico tank?
Yeah, someone has a gun to both of your heads, forcing you to keep a pico tank. Which corals would you both choose? If I'm answering that question, the answer is pull the trigger, mate. I would rather I would rather that than have a pico tank.
the only corals I'd try and keep was either zoas, recordias, or mushrooms. Probably that's as far as that's basically all I would try.
I mean, it depends what you mean by pico tank, I suppose. But yeah, because the problem you're going to have is, first off, water chemistry is going to be all over the place, but also space. So if you put a toadstool in there, that's great because they're really, really hardy. But actually, maybe it wouldn't grow because you'd have terrible water quality. But at some point, it's going to take over the entire thing and grow out of the water. So yeah, probably mushrooms.
Yeah, I've seen pico tanks with zoas and mushrooms in, but how long when you see a picture of a tank, you don't know if that tank was just set up or if that tank has been there for a year. But generally speaking, most pico tanks, I would say, don't last very long, just because either things outgrow them, but more likely they crash all the time.
Yeah. So a pico tank, I think of a pico tank as, I don't know what size, but a few liters, maybe a gallon, like 4
it's
liters.
Like 5 liters, isn't it? Like what I thought it was, but
yeah, there you go, 5 liters or less, which is tiny.
Yeah.
So, but then even like, is a 7 liter tank a nano tank? I think that's probably still pico, but
yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, I've probably I think mushrooms is probably the best shout.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of getting a pico tank, Bish Bashash?
Sky Crusader said refresh, so I'm assuming there's another member question.
Oh, right, I see. Yeah, I will do. Cheers, thank you. I will do in just a sec. The other question then is, and Bish Bashash, are you thinking of getting a pico tank? Tell us. This is from Rich's Reef. Do you know a good place to buy an Asterina starfish scraper? I think I remember Alex using a good 3D printed one. So I printed one that you can download from Thingiverse, which is a free service if you have a 3D printer, which I'm guessing Rich doesn't have. Yeah. So you can't sell them because they're anything that you get from Thingiverse, you're not allowed to sell unless it expressly says you're allowed to, because it's not your design basically. But there must be one somewhere. I don't know. It's not a design I would make, I don't think. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know. I meant to Google it before and I completely forgot. So I'm gonna do that now. Do you know the answer, Ryan?
I don't, because the one I got you gave to me, but I didn't pay for it. You gave it to me for free, which means you didn't break any rules, and you actually changed it slightly. You made it bigger.
Oh yeah, I did. See, it's funny. The funny thing is, I always say that I don't do custom requests, but
for me,
you're special.
Yeah.
I've had a look. There are some in the US of A. There's one on printed 3D parts, printed 3D dot parts. That looks good. I don't know if they ship to the UK. I'd have a look on Etsy. There are loads of 3D printed.
Yeah, there's probably one on eBay and stuff like that as well, I reckon. I'd be surprised if they weren't.
You'll have to dig around. I don't know of any, I'm afraid. If you know someone with a 3D printer, then give them a shout. Right.
He's like, yes, I know you too.
Yeah, exactly. Alex, this is from the Crusade. He says, Alex, are you taking your bike to Aqua this year? Could do an impromptu fishy bike meet. Ooh. No, I won't, because I got too much camera equipment to take.
And a suitcase.
Yeah, and I could take. I couldn't. That would be wicked. It would be really.
Also, you had to sleep on the car on the way home, didn't you? Last time you couldn't do it on your bike.
Oh God, I literally fell asleep. My eyes shut whilst I was driving, only for like a second, but still not good. But no, I won't. That probably wouldn't be a good idea, but that would be awesome. I'd love that actually. Another time, definitely. But no. Got it now. But yeah, take it along, and if you're taking your bike to Aqua in the chat, let everybody know. You can have an impromptu.
You can always, you can still meet up with other people that have bikes. You just won't have your bike there. Yeah.
Go and talk about motorbikes. Much more fun. All right, good stuff. What was it? Okay, so that is member questions, and that is Week in Reefing. 14 minutes.
There you go. It was like we're speed running it.
I know.
I think it's because this is like you know how sometimes you get topics which are like average, and sometimes you get topics average. Look, it depends if I come up with them or not. But sometimes you get ones where you really get your teeth into. And I think last week we had a really good one, and then I think this week will be a good one as well. So you can tell usually how much we're enjoying the topics based on how if it ends half an hour early or it goes over 2 hours, that tells people whether So,
and there's been a few that have ended up taking ages and that I don't plan for. Whereas this, I know it's going to take ages, so we're going to free up the space. So,
yeah,
Ryan, take us away.
The very, very first response that I got from someone is one which I think sort of goes over everything. This was so some shops had very specific things that they wanted to talk about, and some
Mhm.
shops, but most of them said the same thing. And it was this. It said, I wish people understood the hours, effort, money, blood, sweat, and frustration that goes into running a shop. Customers don't always understand what it takes to run a retail shop. And I'd say generally speaking, it's really, really underappreciated. Would you what do you think of that statement, firstly?
So I can well imagine. I've never worked in a local fish shop, so I don't have that insight. I've got some insight in that I've talked to people who do in more detail than more depth than probably a lot of people have. But so I don't have a full understanding, but I get it, and it's the sort of thing that I can well imagine that it's you take it for granted, and you just when you walk into your local fish shop, you're like, oh, all the stuff, you're there for me, everybody, all the staff, you're there for me. So you're going to be helpful, you're going to be friendly, you're going to be smiling. Nothing is too much, you can give me a load of advice and all this sort of stuff. So I can well imagine that actually it is quite hard, and that you don't think of that at all as a hobbyist.
I think that it would be incredibly labor intensive
Yeah.
working in a fish shop. And I think that when people go in, they probably don't realize what it takes in terms of all the cleaning, all the lifting water. I reckon that people are knackered. When you first start working in a fish shop, I think after your first day, you probably don't go, oh, that was easy. I think you go, I've been standing on my feet all day. I've been carrying 25-liter containers around all day, which are 25 kilos. And so I just thought that was an interesting one to start with, because I think that was the general consensus that I got from everyone, is what I would say.
Yeah. So there's two things you've mentioned there, or one thing you mentioned, and one other that's just come into my head that I actually hadn't thought about. So the standing on your feet all day. I have an office job. This is my office, so I just sit on my ass all day long. So that's easy. Standing on your feet all day is hard work, even just standing up.
Yeah.
And it tires you out. And talking to people constantly and like having to concentrate, all that sort of thing, that drains you as well. So it's actually physically and mentally draining. So you're right. I bet that is really hard work.
I remember actually, because obviously although I'd never worked in a fish shop, I have worked in a cafe, which surprises people when they find out that I work in a cafe. But that was I found that quite intense, because you are on you get the same thing. You're on your feet all day. And but as I said, that was one that was sort of overarching with regards to everyone. If I get too negative in this, let me know, because remember, okay, I've asked for everyone's frustration, so that's what this is going to be. But okay, so the next one, which I consider, so some of these affect me as well, and some of them these things don't affect me. But one of the ones which also came up all the time was, please, 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 if you want to come into the shop, you can talk to me for an hour. You can spend as much within reason. Yeah, you can spend as much time talking. But if you're contacting me at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday, it's unfair. Now that was another one that came up pretty frequently, and it's because people have lives. And so if you obviously, I always pretend I know what you are. You're an ombudsman, but I can never actually, I'm not sure exactly what that is. But if one of your clients contacted you at 11 o'clock on a Sunday, how would you feel?
I would be extremely unhappy. For a start, how the hell have you got my phone number? But yeah, so I don't have clients, to be fair. But previously, when I was a solicitor, if clients would have my number, and if a client phoned me, if I'm stupid enough to leave my work phone on, if a client phoned me or text me or emailed me on a Saturday or a Sunday, nah, I'm not having that.
Now I am guilty. I am guilty of doing this myself sometimes, and where I have contacted. Even ironically, when I sent the message to all the fish shops, I did it on a Monday evening at 8 o'clock, and I wrote what I was planning to do, and I said, please, don't respond now. You don't need to respond now. This is because it's hypocritical, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
But it's just, I think what happens is, and we are sort of an isolated group of people, aren't we? Where we don't really have anyone else to talk to stuff about. So what happens is people start to talk to the shops about it. and then that eventually then progresses to contacting the shops out of hours about things.
You can kind of blur the lines as well, because if you get on well with someone and someone's really friendly in a shop, you kind of start to think, oh, are we mates? Did we just become best friends? Like, and so I can text Dave, he won't mind, and there'll be some people who are genuinely like that, who look. But if you've got 100 people who are thinking the same thing, or 1,000 people, then it's like,
That's the problem that I have. So, as I said, some of these apply to me and some of them don't apply to me. And what I've said, so quite a lot of customers have my phone number, personal phone number, because I have a WhatsApp group that they're all in. And I say to everyone, look, you can be in this WhatsApp group, but like this is for like, and you can come in, you can come talk to me for an hour or 2 hours. That's fine. I love talking to people face to face. But weirdly, like my phone now gives me like, what is it, like post-traumatic stress when my phone goes off, because it goes off all the time. Like I looked at my phone history, you know, where it gives you the rating of how long you're on your phone for. Mine's like 7 hours a day. And I'm like, what am I doing for 7 hours? And then so like I get annoyed even when you message me. It's the honest answer. I don't always reply, do I? Sometimes I'll reply hours later. So
well, I've never noticed, to be honest. You just reply when you reply.
Sometimes, and it's because literally sometimes I get to the point where I'm like, I can't deal with any more.
But there are times when I text you stuff that I know annoys you, when like if another customer will text you something that you just don't care about, like they bought a coral from you 2 years ago and they text you a photo of the colony or whatever. Sometimes I do that, and I do think, oh, I know he hates this, but I've just got to share.
It's interesting. Les just said he gets a response quicker from me via email than he does in any other way. Yeah. And do you know why that is? Because that's how people usually contact a business.
Yeah.
And it also, to some extent, it's like if someone contacts you by email, they're going through the right channels of how to contact you.
It's so funny that you've said that, because so this, you and I get this as well as like social media types, like YouTubers or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there are some things that if someone puts a comment on my videos, I love it. I can't get enough of it. Okay, I don't reply to every comment, but I read every comment and I reply to as many as I can do. But if someone sends me a private message, I don't know what it is, but there's something that feels very different about that, and that feels like almost invasive.
That is exactly what it is. It feels like, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's stupid because it's all on my phone. It just means I'm in a different app. It makes no sense. I can't explain it, but that's why I say, like, I don't reply to private messages, partly because I get so many of them, but there's something about that as well. And I've now changed Instagram so you can't message me unless I follow you, basically.
Yeah.
And it's because messages build up every now and then. I have a look and I've got like 50 messages or whatever that I haven't read, and it stresses me out. I don't know why, but when I open YouTube comments, fine. It's just something. It's not a conscious decision. It's just. But yes, it's interesting that going through the correct channel changes things.
That was, as I said, that was one of the things that was across the board. It didn't matter if you were the owner, if you were a staff member. It didn't matter whether you're a shop in the north, a shop in the south. They all had that same thing. My work hours are between 9 and 6, or whatever the shop work hours is. Like, unless you have an absolute emergency, like, and I'm talking like your fish tank is on fire. Then it's just, well, what I've realized from starting this is that maybe, like, I don't know if this is going to be a good live stream or not, because I feel like I'm just telling people off now. Because as I was getting the information back from people, I thought, this is really interesting, because some of these things I do, and I'll be interested to know in the chat if you are guilty of some of these things. Just like, let people know, because as I said, I do it sometimes, rarely, but I do it.
I do that stuff sometimes innocently, as it were. So like, there are times when I'll send a message to a shop out of hours, but I don't want them to reply, and they do, and they come back, and I'm like, no, please don't. I don't want to ruin your evening. But the only answer to that is, because if you message, if your phone beeps, you don't know if that's from a friend, a colleague, a customer, your dad,
that's
whatever.
Why it feels invasive.
And then when you see it, that's true. When you see it, you've then got to reply to it, because you could just ignore it and come back later. And to be fair, there are times when if I pick up a message or whatever, sometimes I will just, if I'm doing something, I'll reply like 3 hours later or whatever. So there are times when that will happen, but I bet there are lots of times when a shop will, you don't want the shop to reply. You're not asking them to reply at a time. But if you message someone, it's occupying headspace, and they've got to deal with it. Otherwise, they'll forget or whatever. So,
okay, I will move on to the next one, which is actually a slightly more positive one.
and
that is that positive reviews make a massive difference.
Really? Okay.
Because people are quite quick to leave a negative review, because usually reviews are used out of spite. I would say. Do you know what's interesting? You remember last week that I spoke about the stuff that I got off eBay? One of them is now, remember there were 4 corals. 2 of them are now completely dead. I did get an £8 refund. So that was something, I guess. But I never left negative feedback. Now, some people will say that's bad that I didn't leave negative feedback because someone else can do it. But the person had 1,000 positive feedback. So did I want to be, was I leaving negative? Would I be leaving negative feedback because I wanted to educate everyone else? Or would I be leaving it because I wanted to be spiteful?
Yeah, I get it.
And I looked to myself and I went, I don't want to be that person. Like, because I wouldn't be doing it for everyone else. I'd be doing it because I had a bad experience. And although my review would be justified, there were 1,000 people that had left positive reviews. And if 1,000 people left positive reviews, that means there's probably at least 2,000 people who bought from him that didn't leave a review at all. So why do I want to be the one person that was spiteful, even though I did have a bad experience? Maybe he was having a bad day. Everyone has a bad day sometimes.
I've left a negative review of a shop before.
Have you? Interesting.
This was. I'm not. There's no way I'm telling you that. I've since deleted it actually, and I've spoken to the shop owner like face to face, and he's a really nice guy. But I had a bad experience with a very expensive purchase, and it cheesed me off, and it was completely justified. But I later decided, why am I doing that? Why leave a negative review? What's the point? Who's that helping?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm intrigued. What, out of interest, what was? You don't have to tell me the shop.
I'll tell you after. Otherwise, you'll be able to narrow it down. But yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine. You'll be like, I bought this product from this, and it's like a branded product for that shop.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just interested. But yeah, so each of these are from different shops basically. So someone basically said that a positive review makes a massive difference. People are very quick to leave negative reviews, and that can be seriously harmful for shops.
Yeah,
because if you're a shop that only has 5 reviews, there's a so AAC interestingly has, I don't know, there is a negative review on one of their review pages on Google, and what it actually says is, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something about freshwater fish. Someone had gone into their shop looking for freshwater fish,
which they don't sell,
and then left and then wrote a negative review based on something that's like me going into Costa saying I couldn't buy shoes.
Yeah,
do you see what I mean?
Ridiculous.
But that person didn't do it to be like, because they did it out of spite basically, which is wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, to some extent, you should be able to remove negative reviews if they are entirely unjustified. So they should be able to contact Google and go, look, we don't sell freshwater fish, so this is like nonsense. But it's there, and it's there forever. So, and I've read that ages and ages ago. I just remembered it and I actually quite enjoy looking at, like, if you ever, whenever you look at reviews for anyone, I always search for the negative one, usually because it's something comical.
Yeah. So that's the funny thing is with negative reviews, actually, when you read through them, every now and then you'll come across a negative review that's actually really constructive and it's useful to know as a buyer. But most of the time, it's someone who's just pissed off and they just want to let their anger out. So that's what you get. And it's funny because you read things like that. I went in to buy a chair from Costa and they didn't sell them. I'm really pissed off.
Yeah. And as I said, it's ridiculous. Anyway, so Have you? Oh, so you have done that. I don't think I've ever left a negative review.
I should say I've just looked there. I just searched 2 shops that I go to most: Aquatic Emporium and Reef Keeper Moss End.
Yeah.
And I did this with Reef Dreams as well when that was opening. I've left glowing reviews for them. And actually, I get.
That's what I wanted to say. If you're listening to this stream and you have a shop that you go to on a regular basis that you will whatever it is, whether you buy food from them or fish, or if they give you the time and have helped you through your hobby, use this moment now to go and leave them a positive review, because it will make a massive difference for them. It feels nice. Yeah. I looked at my eBay reviews the other day. I've never looked at my eBay reviews because I've sold loads of nonsense on eBay before. But for some reason, because I'm selling coral, I was interested to see what people said. And I've had positive feedback, basically, which is nice. So it does, whether you realize it or not, and you'll never know if the person reads it, but it does make a difference.
They probably will do, and if it's something that you've genuinely, if it's just, look, this was a great shop, then that's great. But if it's something specific they've done to help you, that they will. You don't always realize that people appreciate you. So actually seeing that someone's taking the time to read a review and say, write a review and say, these guys helped me out. There was a place in Eastleigh called Tropical Paradise when I first joined the hobby. And the guy in there, Cam, I got so much time for that guy. He's still in the hobby, but he's not in the industry anymore. And he spent so much time with me. I had a day off, so it was a quiet day. But he went out of his way, and I was the one who was trying to say, I don't want to take up too much time. He was amazing. And I left a really nice review of that because it was just so kind of him to spend so much time with me and be so passionate about it. And so if you've had a specific experience, that makes a difference to people, and it's feels good. So do it.
It's interesting because that was a shop which was considered to be really, really good. It was meant to be a really, really good shop. I remember once I went in there and there was 4 Clarion Angels and they were thousands of pounds, but it didn't last. But it's sort of similar with Reef Dreams. What is it? You can be a good shop but still not survive. I know Reef Dreams, they retired.
Reef Dreams lasted a long time and he basically retired in the end. Tropical Paradise, I don't really know. It was only open for about 2 years when I was in the hobby. But it might have been open for 25 years before I joined, or it might have been open for 6 months. I don't know. So I don't really know anything about it, to be honest.
Just as I say, it's just interesting. Maybe my perception at the time of what a good shop was may not be the same as what it is now, if you see what I mean.
That's amazing, by the way.
I know.
He's at 1.2 million views on my reviews at the moment. Wicked.
I know. Les told me the other day he leaves loads of Google reviews and he gets loads and loads of views for some reason. So, everyone, be nice to Les.
To Les. Mosby says, leave Aquatic Emporium a good review. UA is great, and they are fantastic there. So do it.
There you go. So
but any local fish shop you go to, they will appreciate it. It's nice.
And if you can't be bothered to do it, remember the effort that they have probably put in with you over the years, because it will probably take you a minute, and you're not doing anything else. You're listening to us. The next one is that we hate that prices are. No, we hate prices being as high just as much as you do.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this comes from where people have gone into the shop and they go, "Oh, how a yellow tang's now £250. They used to be £25." Remember, people hear the same thing. You're not the only customer that would have said this over the years. So, and the truth is, I believe that. Because they can sell more coral and fish if they're cheaper, because then there's more people in the hobby to do it. So trust me, they hate it. They hate the prices that have gone up just as much as you do. I'd be interested to see, I said this to you before, I'd be interested to see if, I know Trump has changed his tariff scheme now to some extent, but I'd be interested to know if the fish and coral in America will have gone up in price, because I think Indonesia was on a 46% tariff.
That's in the news. Vietnam, so 46% for Vietnam and Sri Lanka with 44. Oh, sorry, Sri Lanka is 44%. Indonesia is 32%, as is Fiji.
Yeah, so I'd be interested to know, firstly, if theirs have gone up, but secondly, if ours will get cheaper, because all of a sudden they have a lot of potential corals that are not being sold to the US and they have to go somewhere else. I don't know. But I think, as I said, I think the tariffs have changed now, so they're all 10%. So
It
it's
change
not
every
as...
5 minutes. It's ridiculous, but
No, I know, but it's...
anyway, let's not get into that. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, that's true. But it's yeah. So shops hate the prices are as high just as much as you do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's interesting. Actually.
Stop telling them.
But that's a natural thing. You can tell people to stop telling people that. It's not going to happen because
No, I know. Discounts were, while on the topic of prices, discounts are one of the things that came up all the time.
Yeah.
And again, this was across the board basically with I think 8 of the 10 shops. And it's that people are more than happy to... You would never go into Next and go, can I have £5 off this £40 t-shirt?
Yeah.
You would never do it in Costa. Can I have my espresso for £2 rather than £1? I don't know what espressos cost anymore, but you know what I mean. Whereas for some reason, this industry is known as a haggling, or has always been known as a haggling acceptable industry. But why? Now I'm going to ask you: have you done that? Because I have.
Oh, absolutely. I actually don't think this is one. Shop's going to hate this. I don't necessarily think there's...
Remember, 10 of them are listening. You'll be like a pariah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that for the most part. The things... There are times when I overhear... Like, if you're going in and you're haggling every single time, that's too much for me. And if you're spending 20 quid in a shop once every 6 months, forget it. That's just not fair. But if I was setting up a new tank and I'm going to go and buy a tank, and the tank costs $3,000, I'm going to ask, can you do 10% or 5% or whatever, And if there's something that's particularly expensive, there've been times in the past where I bought a coal tang, whitetail coal tang, and I can't remember how much it was. I think I paid 250 quid. I forget how much it was in the first place, but I'd seen it in another shop that I know they get the fish from the same place for like 50 quid less. I was like, would you price match that? And I feel bad. I genuinely feel bad asking, but at the same time, if it's something that's expensive, there's probably a little bit of give in it. And do you really want to spend it? It might make the difference between I'm going to buy this and I'm not going to buy this. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Let me give you the example I was given. There was a dosing pump, which was £300, and it was asked to be price matched for £299.50. There was a 50p reduction. This was the example that I was given. I 100% believe the person. Like that this actually happened. And I agree with you. There are certain situations. Customers come to me like regularly and will say, "Oh, if I buy this, this, and this, like, can you do it for this?" It'd be pretty unusual for someone to go, "Can I buy this £15 frag for £12?" That's pretty unusual. It's usually if you're bulking things together. But what the customer said, not what the customer said, what the shop said to me was that if someone is asking for 50p off of a dosing pump, which is £300, how much does that person value the shop that they're doing it to? And it was price matched based on the internet. So the customer went, I can get this 50p cheaper on the internet. If you don't give... He didn't say if you don't give it to me for 50p cheaper, I'll buy it from there. But do you see what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a really good point, because that's obviously not about the money. A shop, it doesn't make an ounce of difference if a shop makes 50p less on that item. But the point that whoever that was made, that how much do they value you? But that's what I mean. Remember, why I started this was about being appreciated. Everyone wants to feel appreciated. And there is a pretty consistent thing throughout all of these. Like the reviews was about being appreciated. Like as I said, the overarching thing was that, like, although they are there as a service, it's nice to sometimes just go like, thank you for being... Don't say thank you for being open, if you see what I mean. But you want to show appreciation. Show appreciation in different ways, where you come and go. Another one that someone said to me, just came to me. Now this would drive me crazy if I was a shop. If someone comes in and goes, I just spent £400 at the other shop on the road. And then I've come in, they go, oh yes, I can't buy anything. I've just spent £400 at this X shop. Like, that's like... That's painful as a
Yeah.
shop. And again, I have done this myself. I have
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely done this.
Yeah, yeah.
And do you know why people do it?
Why?
It's because, as I said earlier, we don't have anyone else to talk to. So we go, like, I'm very lucky. I have you to talk to, and I have Jamie to talk to, and there's a couple of other like close friends that I have, which I talk to sort of on a more regular, like more like a friendship basis. Whereas a lot of people, the only person they talk to is the shop or are multiple shops. So if they go to if they're excited about this purchase they just made from I just bought a £700 Achilles tang from another shop, they're excited to tell that person,
Yeah,
not
that's true.
realizing that
Yeah,
it's
okay.
like, so they're not doing it to be mean, they're doing it because they're excited. But the shop is like, I could have got that for you.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
But this is the thing: you don't, with shops, you take them for granted. You don't think of them as like as human people who run it. You just think of it as a business, and So I can't offend a business, can't offend a limited company.
so another less moaning one, and this again another one that came up all the time. Don't be angry. This probably doesn't apply to quite a lot of the more experienced people. This won't apply to, but this is more for like a beginner person. Don't be angry if I say you can't have something. It's in the best interest for both the animal and you. So if someone comes, and the example I was given was if someone comes in and says, I'm looking to get a panther grouper, and you've just told me you've got 2 clownfish or a pipefish or something like that, and I say you can't have a panther grouper, that's in the interest for the animal, your existing animals. That's in the interest for you. East Coast Reef just said, are there any positive topics?
Not today, mate. Next week.
As I said, this is more like a public service thing. I was just interested because people all the time say you should start a shop. You should start a shop. And every so often I think about it. I really do. I put thought into it, and I've I even went and looked at warehouses and stuff like that, because if I was going to do it, I was going to do it on a big scale. And then, but I'm not sure it's the right thing for me. but we'll see. We'll see. But yes, don't be angry. And that's not a negative thing. Don't be angry.
No, there's a way of saying that though. If you're a shop and you're telling a customer that they can't buy something, that is a naturally frustrating experience for the customer. No matter what, whether it's buying tires from Costa like Ryan does, or if it's buying a fish from a fish shop.
So tires from Costa,
shoes from Costa.
Shoe, yes. Yeah.
But yeah, so that is frustrating. So there's a way of telling the customer, because if you just say, I'm not going to sell you that because that's not appropriate, then that's going to piss the customer off. But I think most shops will probably say, actually, you can't have that because, and explain it. So if you do that, then you're more likely to get a more positive response. But at the end of the day, if you're telling a customer that they can't have something that you're selling, and it's because of them, you're blaming them, which is, you're not saying those words, but that's effectively what's happening. You got to expect that customers are going to get pissed off. That's going to happen. Okay. I'm not saying it's right. It's just that's the way humans work, isn't it?
No, I know exactly what you mean. As I said, I realized from doing this, I thought it was a brilliant idea, and now it's almost like don't shoot the messenger. Is what it feels like, because as I said, I feel like that I am, but as I said, I don't mind the fact I'm doing this, because some people won't necessarily realize that this is what it's like.
Yeah. It's interesting to get an insight. I love all this, anything that's like behind the scenesy and you're like lifting the curtain. I find it interesting.
Look, the shops love you, just so you know. Not necessarily you. The shops love their customers, because that was the general consensus. But it was all, I literally said to them, "Can you tell me the things that annoy you about?" It was like, what do you wish people understood? So of course it's going to be things that they find difficult. Mm-hmm. So
that's the thing, because the 99% of the time is all the good stuff, and you talk about that easily. It's just the 1% that you don't talk about. I probably need to change the title, because I completely misunderstood what this was going to be about.
So did all the people listening, apparently.
No, anyway, what's next?
That's so true. Mose Reef just said what people actually hear is that you can't have that because you're a crap reefer.
Yeah.
Whereas that's exactly not what that isn't what they're trying to say. Like they want you to be successful just as much as you want you to be successful.
Yeah.
Because the other thing, what usually happens is if something goes wrong, like people will come back and go, well, I bought that fish and that fish is now killing all my other fish. I have absolutely done this, especially. So when I very first started, it wasn't my tank, but I bought a freshwater pufferfish based on advice I ignored the advice of the shop. Basically, they said, don't get a freshwater pufferfish. They'll bite everything. And I thought, they're just fish. This was this was at the very beginning. This was before I'd ever had a tank myself. This was buying it for it was actually my girlfriend's at the time's brother. And I bought it and I put it in there and it attacked everything. And then I was like, this wasn't what I expected. And I'm like,
should have been what you expected.
I remember taking it back to the fish shop going, it attacked everything. And they went,
we told you that. I told you, Ryan.
I know. So that's the thing. It's like, I am just as guilty of these things.
But it's funny because I didn't get that advice once and this was before I was salty. I bought 2 of these fish. They're called leaf fish.
Yeah.
And it's that, I think that's what they are. Oh no, it was this thing, whatever that is. Yeah, a leaf fish. There you go. And I bought it because it looked cool. It was in Pets at Home. I think, or maybe a Maidenhead. I can't remember. I bought it because it looked cool. I was like, that would go well with my neon tetras. And I put them both in the tank. And like the first thing I noticed is when I got them out of the bag with the net, they were like flapping. It was like, and they were strong. And I was instantly, normally, like if you pick up a load of neon tetras in a net, you can't feel them. They're so light. With this, like my hand was shaking because they were so strong. I was like, oh my God, this is a big animal.
Yeah.
And then I put them in the tank and their behavior is instantly, as soon as you see them, you're like, that's a predator. And you can see the way it's moving and trying to stay still. And then it got close to a fish and ate it. And I was like, oh my God. And then I looked it up, which obviously I should have done beforehand. It's all my fault. And it's like, yeah, they're predators, mate. Don't put them with neon tetras.
Neon tetras,
So I took them back and I just said, look, I don't want any money. I just don't want them because I hate that sort of thing. It's stressful, isn't it? So I was like, could you just take them off my hands? And they did. But in that situation, I wish they had said to me, let me guess, you've just seen these, you think they're cool. And I bet you're going to put them in with neon tetras. I'd be like, yeah, that's great. And I wish they'd have said, you can't have that, because I wouldn't have bought them if I known. Although I would have probably got pissed off with them for telling me that.
I've told this story before, and I can when they said this, I sort of got it. I understood it myself because, do you remember I would have told you that there was someone in a shop once, and they wanted to buy. This is actually one of the reasons I started the YouTube channel. They wanted to buy an orange spot filefish.
You told him, didn't you?
Yeah.
And he was like, "Don't care."
I told him that because he was. You could tell it was his first fish. I was listening to the conversation. It was his very first fish, and I said, "You don't want that." And he went. I can't remember exactly. He basically went on like, "I'm going to get us what I want," and I'm like, so. I imagine if you have lots of people now, maybe a shop would have a different experience because there's like not an authority, but like a trust there. Like I was no one to this guy, whereas they would trust a shop more than they would trust a random stranger.
There's also a way of saying, the way you say that is really important, and this is a skill that you probably develop.
Oh, because what I did, I was like, "Don't be an idiot."
Exactly.
I didn't.
But I bet you were like, "You don't want that, mate." And like, if someone random bloke comes up to you in a shop and says, "You don't want that, mate," you're like, "All right, mate, sod off."
Yeah, probably true, actually.
But if you were to say, look, I've been doing this for, and this might make you sound like a bit of a dickhead, but if you would say, look, I've been doing this for about 10 years, I've kept fish for a long time.
Oh, you wait, what the next one is. It says, I hate being told how long people have been keeping fish.
But if you're telling this to another customer and you say, look, the reason that these fish are extremely difficult to keep, nobody keeps them, this is what happens, they'll eat your corals, all this. I'm just telling you, you really, if you do really want it, please go and do some research and leave them to it. That for me is a better way than if you turn around and just go, why are you buying that one? Because if someone feels like they're being made to look stupid, they're not going to listen. Whereas if it's more constructive, it's more likely to land with you, I think. And I think staff, like you say, have got a better chance of that.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember how I said what. But but you're right. There's every possibility. He thought, what does this guy know? Like who knows? Like, but another one that's not. Again, these are not negative ones. These are just things that they wish you understood. So there are two that go quite closely together. Why aren't all fish the same price? Which we spoke about last week, but we can briefly discuss again if you like. So not all fish are the same price because of where they come from. So the price of fish can vary depending on like there's two major ones. Firstly, is if they are imported directly from say Indonesia to direct to the shop.
Can I guess what the second one is?
You can guess, considering we spoke about it last week.
Oh, I've forgotten actually. Is it how greedy the local fish shop owner is?
Oh no, it's definitely not that one. Oh. And the other one is obviously if they come through a wholesaler, like for example TMC. Which obviously we spoke about last time. There is, however, another thing which I didn't realize. I didn't mention it last week, and this is, you might even not be aware of this. So fish from different countries cost different amounts. So and sometimes. If there's like a really, really like high-end fish, in order to get that high-end fish, you might have to buy a load of other fish that are more expensive than you could get from a different country, but you have to fill the box up. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. I think this actually is part of how you and I came to get those Japanese angels.
Oh, actually, yeah, you did know this. Yeah, I think that's the case. Yeah. Because
I think part of that was, so you can't just say, I'll just have those 3 fish, please.
Yes.
They're like, well, you can buy these 3 fish, and so maybe that's what happened. Okay, you can have those, but you also need to buy yellow tangs for 200 quid instead of 100 quid.
Yeah. Oh, I think one of the major ones is Emperor Angels. I think this, like, I could be completely wrong. Yeah. Oh my God, you know what was funny? I searched. This is just coming to my mind. I searched you on Chat GPT the other day. I said, tell me about Reef Dork. And it came up saying, and I tried to recreate this so I could send it to you, but I couldn't. And it said, this is your YouTube channel. This is this. He runs the podcast with Prestige Reef. The podcast is well received. However, there are no facts here, or something like that.
Yeah, brilliant.
It said is not known for being one of the most highly intellectual podcasts, but people like it for the humor or something like that.
It's funny because that's what I would describe this as.
Yes,
but it's also an insult.
where I was going to send it to you, but I forgot, and then and then it just reminded me then, and I was just like, because for some reason I was on it, and I searched myself because I was interested, like, what does it know? And I was like, it knew your name, it knew where you lived, like roughly where you lived. Yeah, it did. It didn't know the exact location, but it knew you lived.
County? City?
Yeah. Whereas it didn't know where I lived, which I thought was weird because I put a postcode on every single post. But yeah, it knew your second name as well, but it didn't know my second name. So
it's interesting. Okay.
Because I asked it, and I said, tell me more, and then tell me more, and tell me more, and it just kept giving more and more information. So basically, I was like stalking you with AI.
Yeah, it's funny. Now you've just outed. You've told everybody they can get my address and my name, date of birth.
That's true.
Going online. But
social security number. No, we don't have social security numbers. Do we? National insurance number.
National insurance, yeah. But it's funny. Every now and then, it doesn't happen often, but every now and then I'll get a comment saying how stupid this live stream is. I didn't learn anything. You just joke around or whatever.
Is that true?
It doesn't happen often, but every now and then. And it's like, and I just find it really funny because it's like, look, if that's what you're looking for, then there are other podcasts like Reef Therapy and various other podcasts that are really, really good at that. That's not what we do. So you've gone into Costa looking for a pair of shoes again, mate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just thought where did it draw that information from? That it said it's not the most Is that a review that we've received? Is that because?
But I love the way it explains the way it says that is not just like, it's not saying, oh look, this isn't an information one, it's an entertainment one. It's like saying, oh, it's actually they're a bit stupid. It's like I feel like there's an intended insult in that.
It said it was we are well received because of the humor on the show or something. And I'm like,
I'll take that.
Can't come from Alex. That must be my. So anyway, so right. We have digressed, but yeah. So
sorry,
that's why the fish's prices are different in different shops, because they could come from different sources, and they could come from different countries. And again, and as I said, if someone specifically wants a Japanese masked angel, they may have wanted, they may have said you have to have a load of Emperor angels, which would normally cost them X amount of money, but from this place they cost triple the amount. And then you're never going to be able to charge triple the amount for the Emperor angels, so you have to increase them a little bit and increase the cost of the expensive fish. So there you go. Another one is that why can't you get certain livestock? that goes well with the other one. Livestock is seasonal.
Oh, I see. What do you mean? As in, so if someone comes into a local fish shop and says, "Why can't I get? Why haven't you got yellow tangs or whatever?"
Well, they might go, "I want yellow tangs obviously have to be bred." So like there has actually been a shortage of yellow tangs in the UK for a long time, because what happens is the wholesaler gets like 40 tank bred ones, or maybe 100, which are spread between the north and the south. I think they only come through TMC at the moment. I don't think you can import them directly. So let's say you've got 40 between. There's 100 between the north and south, the two Manchester and the one in London. So that's 50 each. Each of those shops only across the whole country have 100 to share amongst all those people, amongst all of them.
Yeah, so, and I mean, think how many maidenhead aquatics there are. There must be a couple of hundred maidenheads, let alone other local specialists. You know.
And for something like for something like yellow tangs, they have to ration them out where they go, right, you can have one.
A normal local fish shop would say give me 20 or something. But
of course, because they will always sell eventually. They are a hardy fish which is disease resistant most of the time. They go in every tank. They're basically like the signature fish for the hobby, or they always used to be. And they're not available anymore. So there is like a hunger for them. So every shop would have gone in and gone, yeah, I'll have 20 or 5 or 10, but they can't. Because the wholesaler can't do that, because it's unfair across the board, because they can't favorite one shop just because they got there first. Do you see what I mean? So that's one reason. But the other reason is it's seasonal. Like if you order I don't know, this might be a bad example, but it's something you don't see all the time. An Achilles tang. Like Achilles tangs aren't at the wholesaler all the time. So there's some fish at the wholesaler literally you'd see all the time, like chromis, for example, or like any damsel, clownfish. You can get all day, every day, the entire year. You can't get an Achilles tang all day, every year, because you have to go catch them. So this is not like a game or a pair of shoes or whatever. This is something that is living that you have to go get.
Yeah, you can't buy strawberries in November.
Exactly. No, I don't eat strawberries, so I didn't know that.
Probably can, to be fair, but
I don't know if that's a fact or not.
Yeah,
but
strawberries are a bit more in demand than yellow tangs.
Yeah, so sometimes people will have to wait if you want something, and that is it. So there is actually a fish which one of my customers actually wants, which is a femininus wrasse, which I know are very seasonal. Like you hardly ever see them. I think I was told that they're actually now's around the time that they're collected. I'm not sure why that is, but this was what I was told from a reputable fish shop. But if you try and ask for one in like October, it's like forget it, you can't get one. That's a male, I think, isn't it? That's what the females or juveniles look like. I think that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, they're that's what I think of as a femwrasse. Very pretty, very expensive, very likely to die, but cool fish.
Yeah.
If I was brave enough, I'd get one.
Yeah, I know, but you have to be like.
Actually, I wouldn't get one because they're one of those fish that is
and like a little
dedicated.
Bit,
yeah,
a little bit not quite there.
Yeah, it's just gonna die, but they're so cool. Actually, it's funny because those and Lenardi wrasses are the two like posh wrasses that everybody wants. Lenardi wrasses, I think they're cool, and I like it when I see them in other people's tanks, but I wouldn't want one. But a femininus, sign me up.
Okay, so the last couple have not been too bad. They're more of like there is one that I would specifically like to focus on, and I see this, and I have seen this in before, and I have also to some extent experienced it myself, which is a weird thing to say, but you'll understand. Women are treated differently in this hobby to men.
Yeah,
I'm not saying every man treats women differently, but some men will treat some women differently. That is, you see it with the female YouTubers sometimes. So but in a fish shop, and what was interesting when I spoke to one of the owners, they said if you see a female working in a fish shop, it's not because they just want a job. It's because they are dedicated. They are one of the people that really love the hobby usually. So, but there's this thing where, and this I said I spoke to 4 women that are in the hobby, and they all said exactly the same thing. People assume that men know more than we do, and one of the most is it Aquatic Emporium. Now, I didn't speak to Aquatic Emporium. I've never been there myself, but I've been told that the lady who runs it is incredibly knowledgeable. Is that correct?
She's brilliant. Yeah.
So
so it's a husband and wife couple, Sue and Stefan.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk to someone about Stefan's great, if you're watching, he really is. But if you want to talk to someone about the corals or the fish, you want Sue,
Yeah. So that's the perfect example. Also, there's the lady that brings coral back to life that was on Serious Reefs.
Nicole Bridges.
Yeah, I can't bring corals back to life. Sometimes I can, but but I don't. But not like that, where she's going through and doing some very, very specific things.
Yeah. You mentioned the YouTube thing as well, or social media stuff. So there's Queen of Reef, Stephanie. So she's on sabbatical at the moment because she's off doing fancy lawyer stuff. But she is coming back. Actually, I should have put that in the news. she's coming back, I think, and she's going to be making a video. But I used to watch her videos and follow her on Instagram. And there were 2 things that I just used to think: how do you cope with this? How do you deal with this? One of them was on her YouTube. It was always, there was different things for this. It was either on YouTube or Instagram. So on the YouTube, she'd always get comments from people basically saying, you're young and female, you're stupid, and so you don't know how to keep fish or corals or whatever. And her tanks are banging. she knows her stuff as well as anybody else. But she used to get really patronizing comments on, and I don't know how many. Maybe I spotted them and there weren't that many. But I noticed that more than I'd never get, or I very rarely get that, and she does. And then the other thing on her Instagram, like she'll post a photo, and people are like, it's like perverts basically, like being, and it's like the comments are really creepy, and it's like that's just like, I couldn't deal with that. I'd be like, I mean, obviously I get that anyway because I'm a bit of a heartthrob, but
usually they're from me though.
Exactly. But
look, a lot of people will know how my channel started, where previously the face of my channel was basically my ex-girlfriend now, and I was never in it. The information all came from me. It was written by me, and she read it out. Interestingly, she had loads and loads of like negative stuff. When I took over, nothing.
That's funny.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
I even, as I've told you before, I got sent penis pictures.
Oh God. So, look, I said I'm sorry. I won't do it again.
Do you remember what I did? Do you know what I did? I love this story.
Yeah. I wish you'd have followed through on it as well.
No. I found the person on Facebook, sent him a picture of all of the people who had the same last name as him, and said, which one of these people would you like me to send the picture to first? And it was like, no, please don't do it. So there is definitely this thing. Oh, Les just says, I apologize. Wouldn't it be fun if it was someone who was listening? Going back to the original point, I do think that women in this hobby are treated differently. It's by not everyone, but some people. It's time to move on from that. Like this hobby is for everyone. And trust me, there are plenty of men that don't know what they're doing. So don't just assume that someone has a penis that they know what they're doing more than someone who doesn't, is what I'm trying to say. So there you go. So speaking of female gurus, does anyone know what happened to Gallery Aquatica? I don't. I remember
that was it. So I've not watched them for a long time, but Gallery Aquatica was a bloke, wasn't it? It was an aquarium maintenance company. Maybe, I don't know. I've not watched them for a little while, but Australian. No, I've not seen them for a little while. I don't know. But if you know in the chat, tell us. If you're from Australia, if you're from down under, tell us.
One of the comments that someone wrote, or that someone responded with, was customers that want regal tanks. I'm not sure what that means. I wasn't sure if you know what that means.
I presume it's like they want a dory.
Oh, I see.
I
know, but clownfish would have been the more obvious one. If he
but anyone can keep a clownfish, more or less.
Yeah.
If you want to put a dory in a fluval evo. Because I asked that when I was when I was setting up my first tank. I was researching for far too long, and I was looking at a fluval C. I can't remember. It was 90 centimeters long, but it was tiny. It was about 100 liters. And I was asking the guy if I could keep a yellow tang in there. And he was like, not really. Because I just had bloody no idea. And that's because you don't.
Steve Jasper just said, Ryan, you told me I'd get a discount if I sent you that. Steve, that was specifically for you, though. You are obviously the exception. So Steve is one of my regular customers who comes and picks up the corals from the farm. So
his wife, Anya, this is a Gallery Aquatica. Anya did some really good fragging videos. She's very knowledgeable. I don't think I ever saw that, but I've not watched that for a while. I used to watch that quite religiously, but I don't know what happened. Tell us if you know.
Right, I'm going to go back to another one, which will be interesting to see if you've done this, because again, I've done this. Buying something online and then going into a shop for help with it because something's not quite right, or you can't, not sure how to set it up, or is that justified or is that not justified?
So I have done this, and this reverts back to something I mentioned earlier, actually, but I did it because it was the shop the shop I bought the thing from weren't helpful. And basically the I'm paraphrasing, but when I contacted them to raise the problem, and it was a problem that I'd created, it wasn't like a faulty piece of equipment or whatever. But when I contacted them to raise the problem, I expected them to say, look, we'll pull some strings, or we'll help you or whatever. I got nothing. And I went into my local fish shop. I contacted a couple of companies directly who I knew could help me, and I went into my local fish shop, and I said what had happened, but I didn't ask for help. But I just said what had happened, and they were so helpful. They spent ages fixing it for me, basically helping me sort it. And I felt bad because I'd bought a significant purchase from a different shop.
I think what they were getting at in this is that shops need.
I've just bought a Radion from your competitor. Can you help me set it up, please?
Yes.
Your online competitor who I can't speak to.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's easier. It's easier to go and talk to someone. But in the same way, they're going, look, we're happy to help, but we really wish that you'd also support us in return. And trust me, I 100% get it. I genuinely do. It would be very hard to run, especially in this climate at the moment. It would be very hard to run a shop. And to some extent, this all remember, this also includes me because people buy coral online from me. So but the slight difference is if I have something that you can't buy from a shop, because coral is it varies, doesn't it? Some of the corals I've had for 17 years, so I've been collecting for a long time. So you can't just buy a specific type of Sophastria or something. And so there are some benefits to buying from me, but if it's a product that the shop sells and it's like for like, you see what I mean? Because
that's the whole point is that if you're buying online, you have to live with the fact that you might not. Sometimes you'll be able to phone them and have a chat with them, great, but it's not as easy. So, but you've got to deal with that, and so it's not fair to then give all of the benefit to an online company and then give the burden to your local fish shop. Actually, a really good local fish shop, especially if you're a regular customer, will be happy to help you with that anyway. They might when you're gone.
I'm sure all of them will be happy to help you with it. But I'm sure all of them would also wish you had purchased it from them as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it works. It's a lot of this is about give and take, I think. Where we don't ask anything from online companies, I would say. You buy something and then you don't ask anything extra usually. Have you ever contacted an online company?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Have you? I've never contacted an online company ever, not once.
I did this week. I bought some shelves. They arrived and I didn't like the color, so I phoned them and I was like, "Can I send them back?" And
no, that's different. That's different. I'm talking about extra stuff. Have you ever contacted an online company to go, "Can you tell me how to set this up?"
Oh no, probably not.
No, because you can't be bothered to wait for the response, and it's also not as easy to do it via email.
Yeah.
So I think the general consensus is shops
I bought a metal shed recently, and I phoned them to ask questions about it. But that was about a purchase I'd made specifically.
I think what they're trying to say is, look, we might be more expensive, but we also add value to it in a whole range of ways, from information to even something like taking your kids somewhere to go that's free. There is added value. Because taking a kid to a fish shop, it's like going to the aquarium for free, isn't it? and I reckon there will be, if you could talk to the Maidenheads, like loads of kids go to Mainheads, loads
It's
and
a
loads
zoo,
and loads.
basically, isn't it? It's a free zoo, yeah.
Yeah, it's a free zoo. So now, if that's the reason I wanted to get the point across, I had a free day yesterday. You know what it's like when you're in a relationship and you have a free day, and you're like, I have the entire day
Best thing ever.
to myself. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's because Rachel went to go to Harry Potter World, so she went for the whole day. I was free to do anything, and it was actually quite sad for me because I woke up and I went. Normally, I would go to a fish shop. They're all gone. They're literally all the ones I used to go to are gone. They're just not here anymore. And I don't think people realize that, like, this is going to keep happening. I don't think they're saying support your local fish shop so that they can get a Ferrari. I'm saying they're saying support your local fish shop because you're keeping it open. You're keeping that service open for people. Do you agree?
Yeah, oh, completely. Yeah, and I used to do. I don't really do this anymore. I used to do the rounds. I used to on a weekend, especially on the bike, I'd go and visit half a dozen shops, and 3 of those that I went to all the time were Reef Dreams, Taylor's Marine Room in Portsmouth, which actually started back up again. I don't know if it is now, but I think that's
they started again, and then I think they closed again.
Yeah,
and I think they started again, and I think they closed again.
Exactly, but that was great. So Reef Dreams, Taylor's Marine Room, and then the place in Southampton that I've forgotten. So those were 3 that I used to go to. They no longer exist anymore, and so now the other 2 places that I would go to, it's like, well, is there really any point if I'm only going to go and see 2 instead of 5? Well, fast forward 10 years time, they won't be there at all.
Yeah, it's Mo's Reef has actually had some quite interesting things in the chat today. People have put quite a lot of things in the chat with different opinions on this. Some people agree, some people disagree. I'm not sure that a local fish shop could ever get away with charging for advice. But what they do is, they hope that you have enjoyed your service, that service they provided, then you'll come back in the future.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is enough, because loyalty to some extent is a thing, I would say, in this hobby. But I don't think it's like really, I don't think it's everything.
That doesn't run that deep, no. And so you definitely can't charge for service, which is what is follow up. you can't do that. So you charge for consultations, but that's very different.
I'll explain just quickly why it's different. So I had a customer the other day, and who had a consultation, and it was actually it was one of those consultations. I'm sure I know he listens to the live stream. He was in the Netherlands, I think. But his problem was it was a basic one. And he said he went to his fish shop, and which is a great fish shop. It was actually like Dream Corals, I think, in Europe. Yeah, so they're like a good one here. And what they advised to him was to get a UV sterilizer. Now, his problem is that his corals are dying. And the reason that I realized this actually, like, literally but the actual problem was his magnesium was like just incredibly low.
Okay.
Like, it was really, really low. And it'd been low. I looked at all his parameters for a long, because he recorded them for months and months and months. He had an ICP test, and the ICP test came back saying it was low. And I said to him, the reason the shop didn't say to you, is because your magnesium is low. And I said, did they even ask you what your magnesium was? And he said, no. I said, the reason is because they assume that if you're buying acros from them, that you already have the basics done.
Yeah,
and whereas, and he had spoken to a few people, and it was the reason it was beneficial for him, that consultation, was because we went through everything. Like, well, but that was after the other thing where I wanted to make sure everything else was right.
But the other reason that's different is because if you're in a local fish shop, they might deal with 100 people in a day.
Yes.
So they're not going to allot an hour to everybody. Whereas this is a dedicated time that you set aside. You get people to send in questions in advance and all this sort of stuff. So, but anyway, what are you? Sorry, carry on.
What I was trying to say is that when people are dealing with you on a quick basis, like, and as you said, they might see 100 people that day. They don't have the ability or the time to sit down and go through absolutely everything with you. So to some extent, you like, or if it's quiet, they might have been able to go tell you everything. But if it's not quiet, it's very difficult for them to stop. I'm not sure how people do it. Like, I'm not sure how shops do it, because even when I have 2 or 3 people in the farm at the same time, I'm like a mess because I'm used to a like one-on-one service with people. And although people don't care, like, I like to focus directly with one person. And when there's very occasionally, if one person's late, one person's on time, and one person's early for their hour, you can get 3 people in there at the same time. And I don't want to kick people out. So like, I don't know how shops do it when they've got 5 people they've got to serve. But I'm not sure why I went off that tangent. But anyway,
did raising magnesium fix his issue?
I don't know. It was it was literally yesterday. It was yesterday.
Okay.
I had the call.
So too soon.
But as I said, every so often I learn things in these calls. So why would a really, really experienced fish shop not say to him, "It's your magnesium," or not even ask what his parameters were? And it's because they are thinking on their level. They're thinking, we keep all these acros. We noticed some improvement with our acros when we ran UV.
Yeah, it's funny. Problem solving with anything, whether it's fish keeping or whatever, is just, you've got to start by going back to first principles and just go through everything, go through the basics.
But it's not possible for a shop to do that.
No, completely. No, not with everybody. There'll be times when they can do, but not with everybody. And that, so, but anyway, so charging for service, so they can't, I don't think shops can do that. And I think that would give the wrong message, because actually that's part of the reason that people go into shops. So if you're saying, if a shop says, okay, you got a question, 10 quid. You know, so
it isn't. I know it's not a viable thing for them to do. But
no,
as Mo, who apparently I can call him Mo, as Mo said, it's like, I can't remember what did Mo say. Your loyalty to that shop, showing appreciation. Even as I said, even going on to Google and writing, I went to this shop. They were really helpful. It's not a lie, and it takes you probably a minute to do, and they'll appreciate it. So yeah, that's that one. Right. Well, I've lost my place because we went.
You just got off on the tangent.
Oh, this was another interesting one. They can't guarantee the behavior of a fish. These are they're wild animals. So what happens is someone might buy a purple tang, for example. Purple tangs. I can
guarantee the behavior of that fish.
No. I have some purple tangs which are like good as gold, and I have some purple tangs which are absolute bastards. So I will take fish from people. So one of my customers, I told you this a long time ago, I think, they said, look, he was a fisherman, and he said, I've got this fish, it's massive, it's a brown tang, no one will want it, I'm going to kill it because I kill fish, because he's a fisherman. So it was nothing to him. And I went, no. And the reason he was going to was because everything he put in his tank, it would kill. And I went, no problem, bring it to me. That fish has been good as gold since the day it went in. And it's because I put it in with fish which were meaner than it was, and it was not necessarily meaner, but were higher up on the hierarchy. So just because someone gives you advice saying this fish might be okay, or is okay, or is reef safe, or not reef safe,
the variables.
There's no guarantees with any of these things, because they are wild animals. It's the same as, some people have a pet tiger. That pet tiger can be completely fine for 10 years, and then it'll eat the owner after 10 years.
Yeah, if you get eaten by your pet tiger, you had it coming. But, so what people always say is fish don't read books. So you can say, look, a coral beauty should be reef safe, most of the time probably, and then you'll put one in your tank and it'll eat all your acans, because that fish it's its own person. Bad word, but so yeah, completely, you can't guarantee what fish are like.
This is similar to clown tangs are absolute bastards. Although, as I said, I'm sure there's some clown tangs which are nice. This is one similar to the other ones, but it's sort of like the other ones on steroids. So if you're buying a pump from online, it's one thing. If you're going into a shop and spending an extended amount of time with that shop to go through all of the equipment for a brand new tank, you've got a nice Red Sea tank here in the shop, you've got these lights, these pumps, these power heads, and then to go away after that and buy it elsewhere cheaper, that is very frustrating. And I know what you're going to say. When it's a big expense like that, like if you can save £100 or whatever, remember, don't shoot the messenger. This was the message.
Yeah. What
Like,
I was going to say is there's balance in that, because at the end of the day, you've got to look after yourself, and you're not going to
yeah.
go and spend a large amount of money more at a local fish shop just because they answered a couple of questions. At the end of the
So
day, shops know that you're not necessarily you don't. There isn't an agreement that if I come in and ask you questions, I will buy. That's not a contract.
well,
So,
4 people said this. 4 of the 10 people I spoke to said that.
but
So
this is what. So, but what I mean is that there'll be times when some people will just take the piss, right? And you'll go in with no intention whatsoever, spend 3 hours talking to you, and then you're like, right, I'm going to go and buy it online for 5% cheaper, whatever.
So where's the middle ground with that? Or where, like, if 4 shops have experienced that
Mhm.
and you're not going to change the customer, where do you see what I mean? How do we solve this issue? Or is it an issue that just cannot be solved?
No, I think that's just, you're just going to have to. That's just what happens. You're going to get some people who do that. There'll be some people. So price isn't that important to me, actually. So I would rather. I very rarely ask for a discount in my local fish shop. Sometimes they give me a discount, but I very rarely actually ask. And the most important thing for me is I've got a relationship with them. I want them to make profit from me. And so it's not important to me to get the best possible price. But there are times when you bet if there's something cheaper online or whatever, I will either, sometimes I'll even say, look, I'm going to get this online because it's cheaper.
Well, you're like the enemy if you say that.
but there's a way of doing it. If you're doing that, like, I'm a regular customer, I'm in there all the time. I spend more money than I spend on my mortgage, probably. I dread to think how much money I spend on it. But if you're going in,
Well, I've noticed you don't spend that money with me, Alex.
What I was going to say, there are other shops that I go into that I don't spend so much money, and they probably don't like me as much as the shops that I spend more money. So there's a mix, and it's like, just because everyone's going to be different, and everyone's going to be different with different shops.
Okay, this is actually the middle ground I've realized. You could say, you could literally, if a shop spent a long time working with you and like deciding what the best course of action is for your specific tank, and then you go, okay, I'm gonna go away, think about it, and then you go online and you find it cheaper. At least give the shop the option. That's the middle ground. At least going, look, I appreciate what you've done for me. Like, I found it £100 cheaper.
Yeah.
Is there any room to maneuver with regards to that? I
completely.
think that's probably.
I agree, and and if it was 50p cheaper, like your dosing jar, for example,
if it's 50p cheaper, don't.
Yeah. But if it's significantly cheaper, you also, and like, at the end of the day, I'm looking out for hobbyists, and I've probably got a foot in both camps to a degree, but I'm looking out for hobbyists. So at the end of the day, you've got to if I'm talking to a hobbyist saying, well, what should I do? If something's £100 cheaper, then look after yourself.
It's interesting because on one hand, you are more of a hobbyist. Like, in fact, you are a complete hobbyist with regards to this. I am sort of 50% a shop.
Yeah.
You can see what I mean. So the funny thing is, some of these things I understand probably more than you do. So I can actually feel their pain. Not with all of them, but some of them definitely. I wouldn't say I particularly care when if someone comes to the farm and they go, oh, look at this fish I bought. It makes no difference to me, because I'm part, when it's a one-to-one service, it's like, I don't know what it is. It's just, I think it's just a different experience when it's one-to-one. Like, that hour that I have with people, they can talk about whatever they want. They can talk about their fish tanks. They can talk about their wives, which often happens. They can talk about all of the problems that they have in the world. Some of the people tell me about their health, everything. It really becomes more of like you are chatting to a friend, if you see what I mean. But that's because it's like one-to-one, and there's not the next customer waiting for me.
Yeah.
So I don't care about that. In fact, I love it. Do you know what's funny? This actually happened at Aqua. And if you're listening, the person who did this to me at Aqua, they remember all the people around my stand at Aqua. Someone was showing me their tank. So remember how busy it was, where there were just so many people. Someone was going, look at like this. And I'm like, I appreciate that was like, but there are times, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and if you're that person, I'm not being critical, maybe a little bit critical, but like, you see what I mean? Whereas people show me their tanks all the time, and sometimes it's actually helpful for me, because if people show me their tanks and it's absolutely filled with, I don't know, Goniastria or Torches or Montipora, I can go, you like Montipora? what about this stuff? Or you like torches? How about these ones? So it works. It works both ways. Wow. So is this live? Yes, Caroline, it is live.
It is. And actually, so I'm just going to digress because Safra's asked a calc question, calc crew.
Yeah.
And he said, how often do you change your dosing line in your Ecotech Versa from calc? So my Ecotech Versa dosing line, the internal bit inside the actual dosing pump, did split once because it's corrosive material, liquid substance. It did split, and I made a mental note to change that out every 6 months. And then I didn't bother. But if I was doing it long term and I was doing it properly, if I'm doing it myself, I'm going to be lazy. But if I'm advising someone else, I would say every 6 to 12 months, change the head unit. You can just swap it out and throw it away. So I'd say do that, or just replace the tube. Probably every 12 months is fine. It's probably overkill. There'll be other people who've been like, oh, mate, I've been doing it for 20 years. It's no problem. But for the sake of 20 quid or whatever it is. Sorry, carry on.
That's all right. Just quickly, because obviously I've seen John Wright has been here since the beginning. I challenged John last week to sign up to the Serious Reefs channel.
Yeah.
And he messaged me afterwards saying,
Really?
let me know where it is to sign up. So I believe he did. And I'm intrigued by what he thought. So because John was one, just for reference, John said I wouldn't sign up for something I had to pay for, which I understand.
Totally.
Because obviously YouTube is usually free for people, so I totally get it. And I saw the value. I see the value in it.
100%.
So it'd be interesting to see what he thinks. Right now, I've left this one until I've done quite a lot of them, and I know you said you got a lot of news, so I've tried to rattle through them quickly. Do you know? I realized what we should have done. We should have had 10.
Split this into 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe.
We should have had 10 each, because then I would have had some negative ones and then you would have had some negative ones. But what this has turned into is me looking like an absolute bastard.
So I didn't approach any shops myself. I had 3 in mind that I was going to message, but you had so many. I was like, and actually, I think I would have asked a different question. But anyway.
As I said, you have to realize, if I had said to the shops, what is it that you love about customers, they would have given me a very different response, if you see what I mean. I specifically said, what is it that you don't like?
Yeah, no one wants to know the fun, the nice stuff. You want the juicy bad stuff. So.
I said I almost thought it would be to some extent like a public service thing, to go, just think. People can do what they want to some extent with me, but just have a little bit of self-awareness. Are you doing some of these things? And if you are doing some of these, it's fine. Just make sure you bloody support them, because that's what they need. So John didn't go for the free trial. So it was, as I said, it's too
expensive.
Yeah. What, too expensive? What, free?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So the one that I have left, and this was worded in a whole range of different ways. But the one that made me laugh the most was, stop telling me your water is fine. If your water is fine, then you wouldn't have a problem and you wouldn't be telling me your problem. And I can't solve your problem without knowing the details. And if everything was fine, your fish and corals wouldn't be dying.
Yeah, so this must be across the board with everybody all the time. So because the problem is that person, and I'm not saying a specific person, but the person asking that question is the same as the person asking that question around the world. They've decided, they've thought about it, and they've decided, I know what the problem is. It's either my sulfur level or the spectrum of my light that I've just installed.
Yeah.
And so I know the answer. So I just want you to tell me the answer. And actually you'll go in and you'll be like, okay, so my boron level's too low, isn't it? That's probably what's cool. And the shopkeeper will be like, okay, so what's your salinity? Yeah, salinity's okay. So no. What's your salinity? Because I don't think you've tested it. And then go through everything. And this is what we're talking about, the consultations. You can't just say, I've had an anthias die this week. What's the problem? Right, it's because of the X.
Or my magnesium is fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Even so, with my computer crashing, when I spoke to Les, first step was, he gave me a couple of steps. But first step is do the reset. Then if it happens again, this is how you diagnose problems. You don't just say, right, this is it, that's the answer, bang. You've got to go through steps. So, but people often, and especially when you're new, and I've done this myself, you think to yourself, right, I know what it is. It must be my new light I've installed or whatever. Yeah. So that's the only thing I want to focus on. That's the only thing I want an answer on.
What was interesting, just very quickly going back, because the guy was looking for what to do, and I'm sure, as I said, the guy he won't mind me saying this, because he wasn't sure what to do, he changed his flow. He was increasing his lights so that his PAR was like 500, which is, I would say, for
too much.
Yes, too much. For
if anything, turn it down.
Yeah. And that's what I said. I said so after the initial thing, we still went through, which probably took me
completely.
30 seconds to go, this is your problem, or this is what I believe your problem is. We went through everything else. But what was happening was he was making the situation worse, because he's like, well, I must not have enough light, so I'm going to increase my light. And I'm like, did you see how things get out of control when you keep?
But this is the problem, because if you don't identify the issue, that issue is still there, just happily causing problems, and then you're adding a load of other stuff in, not realizing you're digging a hole deeper and deeper and deeper.
What I did say to him, I said, increase your magnesium, and in a month's time, if things aren't looking any better, send me a message going, you don't know nothing. But remember, I'm only using the base of the information that I have as well.
But the reality was that is an hour consultation when it's one-on-one and it's a fixed period and you've booked it in and you've got a time slot and you've done some prep and all that sort of stuff is great, but you're not necessarily going to fix everything there and then. There's likely to be a process, and so let's try, like with diagnosing it. Right, these are my thoughts. Go and try these, and then come back to me and tell me how it goes. Because if you change this and it doesn't give you the result I'm expecting, then that means something else. And so you've got to take it step by step. So really, if you were going to do this properly in inverted commas, you'd be like, okay, this is day one. Come back to me tomorrow. We'll have another hour tomorrow, and then we'll do this every day for a month or until it's fixed or whatever.
I think it wouldn't. You wouldn't. Yeah, maybe like for someone who's a beginner, relatively new, or once a month thing, because things don't change overnight with our tanks. So you can't fix things. Sometimes they do, but most of the time, they don't. I'd be interested to know, actually, as I said, if he's listening, you could feel free in a week's time. I'd like to know in a month's time, have your corals done better?
I posted that guy's comment earlier. He was asking about magnesium test kits, and I think he said he doesn't trust them or something. I hate magnesium test kits.
Why? And I hate exactly the same as doing calcium, basically.
But no, like for the test process, no problem. Salifert, love it, great, no problem. Yeah. But when I test magnesium, and then I send, maybe it's ICP I hate. I send off an ICP test, and the result is like 300 parts per million different, and I'm like, what? So hang on. So I'm either spot on, I'm at 1350, or I'm at 1650, and that's not necessarily a major problem, but I don't want to be there, So which is it? I hate that. It drives me crazy. So I ignore the ICPs. maybe I should.
Well, it's a difficult one, because it's like, which one do you listen to?
I got no idea which is right. And if you speak to the ICP company, they'll be like, this is why ICP is better and more accurate. If you speak to the Salifert, they'll be like, this is why ours is better. So,
Yeah.
But
that is actually exactly what happened with one company. I'm not going to say who it was, but it is a company that does tests. And they basically went, don't listen to ICP tests. And I'm like, they said some of the things on ICP tests that they're measuring for are like, you can't measure them, it's so low, or something like that. They said,
it's undetectable. But this is why you need like an ICP consultant, and there are people that do ICP consultancies. But a lot of them are tied to the ICP tester. That doesn't mean that they're giving you bad advice or whatever. But in an ideal world, you want someone who's completely independent and has no skin in the game whatsoever. But to be fair, a lot of the ICP consultants are like Adam from Frag Garage, and he is one of the kind of people that you can trust implicitly. But anyway,
have you ever told the fish shop that all your parameters are fine?
Probably.
I think I probably have as well.
But if I have, they really were fine.
No, but why?
But back in the day, maybe. Yeah.
Why do you think people say that?
What do you mean? Why do people say it's fine?
Yeah. Do they say it's fine because they can't be bothered to spend 10 seconds to tell people
there's two reasons. One is because they've decided that actually the problem with I already know that the reason my corals are dying is because I haven't got the right light or whatever. They've decided what their problem is, and
Yeah.
it's not to do with parameters. And 2 is because they haven't tested and they don't want to admit they haven't tested everything. Because the reality is that, so you think that's what, the reality is that if you've got a problem with your tank, test everything. First step, test everything. Okay.
Yeah.
And you might think to yourself, salinity is the one that catches people out all the time. Caught me out recently, the last 3 years ago, whatever. But that's the sort of thing that you can think to yourself, look, I've been testing salinity for 2 years every week. I got bored of it, so I stopped because it never changed. So for 6 months I haven't tested it, but I'm telling you it's fine. And then you test it and oh shit, it's not fine.
I almost wonder as well if it's like an arrogance thing to go like, why are you even asking me? Do you think I've not tested and I don't know what my parameters should be?
Yeah, completely.
Like, do you think that could also play into it as well?
Yeah, and you shouldn't take it as that, because because identifying problems, the first step is that. So if you're asking someone what the problem is, how to fix a problem, and they're going into the minor, if they're going into trace elements as their first answer, they're giving you the wrong advice. That you should expect. I know I've been through this with myself or online or with someone else, but if I go to someone, they are going to have to they're not just going to jump in where I've got to with my research. They're going to go back to the start and work it out for themselves, because you can never trust. And so when I used to do conveyancing, right, years ago, the legal side of selling properties, buying and selling properties, and every now and then you'd have a client who come to you and they've been buying a house, they ditch their solicitor and they move it on to you, and they're like, hey, the solicitor's done all this work, you don't need to worry about it, you just need to do from here on. And I'm like, I can tell you now, I'm not trusting someone else's work. And you go back and you go from the start and you realize that they've done all sorts of things wrong. And I'm sure that happens regularly. But so you never trust anyone else's work, and they might look at things, other people might give advice differently to you. So you've always got to go back to the start. So if someone says to you, what are your parameters? Or if you go in, better put, if you go into a shop asking for advice, you've got to expect that someone might be asking you questions that sound a bit stupid and that are going back to the really simple stuff, because actually,
because they're doing investigation.
90% of the time, if you've got a problem with your tank, it's something simple.
What I can say 100% for certain, if people book a consultation with me, the first thing I say to you is, what are your parameters? And if you don't have them for me, that tells me something already.
But if I booked a consultation with you and you don't ask me what my parameters are, I think you're an idiot. I'm thinking, I'm
exactly. True. So now there are there's 2 other things I've sort of, because we'll go on for too long, but there's 2 other things which I think are quite important. The last one is the main one, but this one is another one. Generally speaking, people want to talk to the owner of a shop. They want to talk to the owner. They want the owner. I've been into shops and there's people there waiting for 10 minutes to go, can you test my water? To the owner, while there's another sales member there who's not doing anything. Like, there's this thing where people they gravitate towards one person in the shop, which is difficult, because if you've got loads of customers, they can't all talk to one member of staff.
Sometimes this is when you're a victim of your own success. So when before I discovered Reefkeeper Windsor, as it was now Reefkeeper Moss End, Ed, like used to be on Ultimate Reef all the time, still am, to be fair, and people would always talk about this mythical creature, Ed from Reefkeeper Windsor. And to a man, everybody would always have good things to say about him. So when I went to see him, I was like, oh, I want to go and see what he's like. So you go in and you want this person's got a reputation, so you're like, I'm going to go and meet him. Turns out it's a massive disappointment meeting him. But,
we know he listens. So.
Exactly. So there are times, I understand that. That's if getting him to test your water is probably not ideal.
But what usually starts to happen, and I've seen this as well, the owner someone will go, oh, have you got a second to grab a fish? And they go, yeah, no problem. Dave will go do that for you. So they basically have to try to train people to wean people off talking to them.
Yeah.
Now, this one is the one that I think is probably, I've left this one till last for a reason. And I'm going to read it word for word, basically what they have written. And I think this is the one that most people will have done.
Cool.
To some extent. It says, customers coming in chatting to me for ages, then commenting / moaning why hasn't something been done or ordered yet. What I want to say to them is it hasn't been done because you've just spent an hour chatting to me. And I am so guilty of that myself.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
but the thing with this is that what you don't, because you live in your own little bubble, right? So you go in and you have a nice chat with someone for half an hour, whatever, and you think, oh, that was nice. He talked to me because he knows me and I talk to him every week or whatever. What you don't realize is you're not the only customer. There's another 20 people who do the exact same thing. And then you go back the next day and you're like, oh, I said, there's algae you haven't scraped off that tank or whatever. It's like, they've not been sitting around scratching their arse all day. It's because of that exact sort of thing.
I always thought to myself, if I ever owned a fish shop, I would just be like, I don't mind talking to people, but I'll be doing I'd be like, you can chat to me as much as you want, but I'm going to be scraping this algae. Yeah. Like, I can't give you one-to-one thing because I have to do this. And again, that's... like some shops I think are closed specifically one day a week to get everything done so that they can I know a few of them. Some of them are closed on
Mondays.
Certain days
used to do that.
And that is because they need to get this out of the way without being interrupted for things. So there's only one other thing that I've just remembered that someone said I didn't write down, and it's that if you've noticed something wrong in the shop, trust me, the staff know about it already. So let's say there's a fish which is not doing overly well, maybe it's swimming funny, and you go well, we need to see if it's going to be okay. You see it with if you think that the owner hasn't seen that fish is swimming funny, when 100 other people have already told them that day that fish is swimming funny. Do you see? If you see something, trust me, the people that are in the shop all day have already seen it, is what I would say.
I would still say to people, mention that. Even if it's happened 100 times, because
I think there's some situation where it could be like where a fish is bullying another fish. They may not know that. But I reckon that if there was a fish with white spot, because shops can't do anything usually. If a fish has white spot in the shop, most places don't have a secret area out the back to take it.
Yeah.
I bet loads of people go, that powder blue tank's got white spot. And you know what's interesting?
It's a powder blue tank.
So recently, over the last month, in fact, you saw, I think, didn't you? So one of my powder blue tanks had what looked like white spot. So tanks get something called mucus plugs, where they're like these long. They're not white spot. They're like long strands of it. And my powder blue tang had these mucus plugs, and every single person that came into the coral farm said to me, "Powder blue tang's got white spot," and I'm like. It was almost like I know what it looks like, and then but it was good because it was an educational opportunity for me to say to people, actually, if you look closely, it's not white spot, because you'll notice how long you can tell they're like a millimeter long rather than like little dots,
tiny.
So
that, I think that is a classic example, and a lot of this today has been stuff that nothing's going to change. It's nothing. It's that, like that, to me, that is, if a customer does that, even if you go in thinking, I'm sure they've been told this before, nothing wrong with that. That's just the way, that's the reality of owning a shop and dealing with it. So, and a lot of that has been, this is how people work. And actually, if you're going into a shop and you're seeing a fish that you think is ill and you're reporting that's a good thing. That makes you a responsible customer. You're trying to help. I know that they might already know it, but I don't mind that personally. But then I don't run the shop, so.
So just another reefer just said that's a fair comment, Ryan. But if I see corals fighting, I would let them know. Absolutely, because that's something that's a quick fix. But if a fish has white spot, for example, I would be questioning if you would buy anything from that tank anyway. But trust me, if it's something like that which can't be changed in that moment, if a coral's fighting, you can pick up and move it. That's fine. Yeah. But there's plenty of things like, well, that tank looks a bit dirty, or you haven't got many corals in at the moment, or whatever. It's like the owner knows.
Yeah. But the thing this is, if you were a bit more conscious and you thought about these sorts of things, then you might act differently. But the reality is, you don't think.
No,
I've
I
just
know.
noticed something. I wonder if anybody else has noticed it, and then decide. You just think, oh, look at this. So,
that's why this was never meant to be a like I'm telling you off, stop doing this thing.
yeah. I know.
It was just. Have you ever thought about these things? Have you ever because most people wouldn't like it happens to me all the time where, and especially after the live stream is the worst time. Like for some reason, I will sit here for 2 hours talking and people can message in the chat or anything. And I'll almost immediately afterwards get people send me messages on WhatsApp about the live stream. And it's like, I'm unwinding. Like I need to unwind in this time.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
It's that thing, the cross-platform thing is the thing that I understand people do it all the time, and it's not just one person, everybody does it, so it's natural. But I always find it weird when someone will watch one of my videos, especially if it's from like 3 years ago, and then they'll go over to Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and they'll post a question or direct message or whatever, and it's like, why don't you just post it on the video? Because if you post a comment on YouTube, I'm gonna see it. When you open the YouTube app, if you post a comment on a video that's 10 years old, it's the first thing the YouTuber sees. It just does it in order of when the comments come in. But I always think, you've watched a video on YouTube and you've gone on to a different platform and commented. Why don't you comment on YouTube? And then you'll get, particularly with old videos, often there'll be like a 3 or 4 year old video and someone will say, what fish is that yellow one? And I'm like, yellow. I've got to go back and watch that video, the whole bloody thing.
I know.
And then I've got to decide which yellow. And sometimes I'll reply. And then there'll be another reply, and you're like, I give up. Sorry, I've got too much other stuff to do. You're looking confused.
No, because Les says, show us the last one I sent you after last week. So Les obviously messaged me after last week's live stream, which is like a sin, Les. But I couldn't find it quickly enough to. But as I said, this isn't telling people off, and I don't think that they should think that. It's about self-awareness. I think.
Yeah.
I think people should understand that. Like, I'm sending Ryan a fax about this stream later. So it's just, you have to understand a lot of people that have access to both fish shop people and myself. And it's like, I remember Aaron's Aquarium once. I'm sure he said something like
future guest on the live stream. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, but I'm sure he mentioned like in one of his things, he basically went, I'm not replying to anyone anymore about anything ever. I'm done because it gets too much. And that is like, you have to realize social media is this like new invention that humans were not designed or evolved to have everyone have access to them. And so that is it. Hopefully you don't all hate me now. So don't shoot the messenger. I think it was valuable. I actually do think this stream was a more valuable stream than some of the other ones that we have done, because I think hopefully some people will think slightly differently. Maybe they won't go and stand there for an hour talking to the owner, potentially. Who knows? But it
might change behaviour for a week.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you revert to type, don't you?
What I do know, at the very least, it was cathartic for the fish shops, because, and I think that was because no one had ever asked. It was nice for them to be able to go, thank you for asking. So anyway, I probably went on for too long. We have to do
we do need to use. Firstly, Lycia's joined late and says, when does this get posted to YouTube? You can actually wind back. It's now, so you can wind back and watch it at any point. But as soon as the stream ends, it'll be there and you can watch it as a normal video, and it'll get posted as a podcast as soon as I process it. So probably an hour afterwards. There was another thing I was going to answer. Oh, what was I going to? There was something I was going to do.
Anyway, asked the question, but then I never saw the question.
He did, but it was a more detailed question than I anticipated, and it would need a longer answer. So we've got to do the news. Sorry, Gaz. Bye. It's not. It's one of those questions that someone asks, and it sounds like a simple answer, but it's not. 5 minutes discussing it.
Well, if anyone who's got a chance while we're doing the news, please reply to Gaz's comments.
Yeah, get 10 different answers and pick the best one. Right, news. Tariffs.
Okay.
Tariffs, Ryan. Yeah. Tariffs. I don't know if you've heard about tariffs. They've been in the news recently a little bit. Reef Dork did a live stream about tariffs the other day. Canadian, so they're they're affected in different ways to the way Brits are by all of this stuff. I'm going to try to avoid going into the politics of it because it's too infuriating.
Yeah.
I don't want to upset anyone as much as anything. But let's talk about it from a fish side of things, okay?
Yeah.
So tariffs are bad for business in terms of everything, frankly. But for fish, it's bad news for our hobby. So I mentioned earlier that there are tariffs for certain countries. So the countries that sell corals and fish and stuff are, and this is a list from Reef Keeping News: Singapore, Australia, Brazil, and Colombia. I didn't realize they came from Colombia. Interesting. Or Brazil, actually. Anyway, that might include freshwater. They have 10% tariffs, which is what the UK has from the States, which is good. I say it's good. It's not too bad. But the countries where like soft corals come from Vietnam. What else comes from Vietnam? Just soft corals.
It's mainly zoas, I think,
yeah, okay.
and like mushrooms. Yeah, soft corals. Yeah.
They have 46% tariffs.
I don't know if fish come from there. I don't import fish, so I don't know, but possibly.
Same for Sri Lanka, and I'm pretty sure Sri Lanka, that's the Indian Ocean. I think there must be a lot of fish from there. And Sri Lanka has a 44% tariff. Indonesia, the tariffs on Indonesia imported to the US is 32%, and Fiji is also 32%, and various other places that are the same high levels.
What's interesting is none of the tariffs are on everything. So even things that you cannot possibly make in America, like coral from Indonesia. I suppose you can technically if you have a coral farm, but you see what I mean? It's like they can't go to their local reef and get stuff for themselves. So look, there was obviously no thought put into it, which is why it's just true. It's what everyone said, which is why it's a lot of it's been like postponed for 90 days, hasn't it? I don't know. But yeah, as I said at the very beginning, I wonder if it'll make things cheaper, because if the people exporting stuff have too much stuff all of a sudden and they need to sell more of it, perhaps they'll make it cheaper for us. I don't know.
Send it to us. We'll buy it. Nice and cheap.
Again, it's something that the hobby does not need. They don't like another 40% on some corals. It would like kill certain sections of the industry. So, and remember, a lot of the equipment also will come from will be made in China probably. Yeah. So it's I'm glad that they have postponed it, and hopefully they will eventually be dropped, but we shall see. So what I saw today, which was I could talk to you for ages about this, but I don't want to. But it's interesting how all of a sudden Apple, who are obviously a very, very powerful company, have gone, no, don't include us in this. So now he's excluded smartphones and computers, hasn't he?
Which by value is the biggest import from China. And it's like, oh, right, okay. Yeah. But so anyway, it's all absolutely ridiculous. Nobody likes it. But
the problem is no one is going to be representing the coral industry.
No.
It's too small for anyone at the White House.
No one cares.
To care about. No.
Yeah. So. We're going to move on because that's the most frustrating subject in the world. Good news, Ryan. Fish.
Okay, good. Finally, some less make it light-hearted.
And it is light-hearted because you posted about this.
Did I? Oh, yeah, I did.
De Jong Marine Life has successfully bred in captivity the De Jongi Grammer for the first time. This is not the first time, to be clear, that the De Jongi Grammer has been bred in captivity.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was, if it was Barley Aqua or Biota or someone else has done it, but this is the first time that De Jong Marine Life have done it, and this is who it's named after. I think you discovered it anyway.
Oh yeah, well I said I spelled incorrectly. I said this is what the profile pictures look on Tinder like, and then you scroll down and go, this is what it's like when you meet them. But I spelled Tinder wrong for some reason without realizing, and then posted it.
How did you spell it? I'm just clicking. Tider.
Yeah, I spelled it wrong.
Tider photo. Reality. But I think that's it. That must be an early stage of.
Yeah. It also potentially looks like it could be out of water, because if you look at the other one, like it looks far more of a natural swimming pose for them, whereas that one looks like it's literally been taken out of the water and a picture's been taken of it.
Yeah, But anyway, look, it's a good thing, and they're a really cool fish. I do like them, I have to say, but they're still expensive. There's no details on how much they'll cost, where they'll go, all that sort of stuff. Here's an early stage photo of one as well. They don't look great there.
Yeah.
You wouldn't pay £1,000 for that, but you know.
It'll be interesting if eventually, after 10 years, if they significantly come down in price.
Yeah,
because they're thousands, I think, aren't they? Like 1,500 or 1,800. I don't know.
Cheapest, I think I saw one for £600 once.
Oh, really? That's way cheaper than I thought they were.
Yeah, but still, that's £600 is crazy money for a fancy Royal Grammar, and that's the cheapest they ever are. And you're right, I think they're normally north of £1,000. So yeah, maybe 10 years time they'll be a bit more affordable. Because what's a Royal Grammar? I don't even know. I couldn't tell you. £50, probably less.
Don't know. I actually don't know, if I'm honest, because I don't go to a lot of fish shops anymore, so I don't know the prices.
I bought one recently, didn't I? Let's have a look. Royal, £36 I paid in August of last year. Although, while I paid £36 for it, it cost me about £1,000 in the fish it killed because it brought in white spot. So
true.
Anyway, moving on. More fish news. Actually, you know what? I'm going to intersperse it. I'm going to do some Ryan friendly news and then some Ryan unfriendly news. Switch it around.
Are we on unfriendly news now then? Yeah,
afraid so. Light Ryan, LED.
Unfriendly news.
It's the Orphec, Orphec OR4 Icon 30.
Yeah.
It's a new nano light. I think, I'm sorry to say this, but that mounting bracket is really ugly, really thickened. That's not an elegant solution. But there are some details, but not as many details as I would like to tell you. But it is for nano tanks.
Okay.
It is $165 in the US, subject to tariff expenses, of course. Tank mount looks awful. I've written in my notes, which it does. Sorry. I can't see how many watts it runs on. Anything over 30 would be impressive for that price, I think. But Orphec, to be fair, are a good lighting company. The only thing I say with Orphec is you got to know how to use it because they generally have quite a narrow spread. So if you're expecting it to give a really wide spread, like an AI blade, you're using it wrong. But that might be different. Maybe it's got wider lenses. I don't know. But anyway, $165 for a light, even though it's only for a nano tank, that's good.
It's cheap.
It's a budget option. There aren't many budget options from recognized brands. There's plenty from brands that you can get on Amazon or from China, whatever. But from a brand that 99% of the hobby knows they can trust, that's great. So
I agree. What's the Prestige Reef friendly news then?
It kind of is. So this is actually animal rights lunatics is what I've written down.
Okay.
So the Saving Nemo Act, do you remember that from last year?
Yes.
It was going to introduce a blacklist or a whitelist for fish and various other things, but it was basically going to wipe out the hobby. That got kicked away because sense prevailed, but that's been reintroduced.
Oh,
I know, yeah.
So it was like bad news, good news, bad news.
Yeah. So this is, and there's a link. This is on the Reef Builders website, by the way. So if you're in the States, you can find this and you can go and there's a link that they've put to the bill in Congress, and you can email your politician, I don't know, congressman, whatever. You can email someone to tell them how ridiculous it is. So please do so, because it's really important and it's really, really silly. But it's back on the table, basically. I don't know how US law works. I don't have much intel on it, but I'll be keeping an eye on that because it's a ridiculous suggestion.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
If it gets kicked away, that would be great. There are some lobbying companies or groups, organizations in the States that will fight this, and if whatever support they can give it to them, and if that means emailing your local congressman or whatever, then do it. So please do have a look on that web. Go onto the Reef Builders website if you're in the States and look that up and look into it, because it's actually important. It's a potential catastrophe for the hobby.
100%, yeah, I agree.
Good news.
Wait, are we going on to the bad one again? Because
no,
you said it was going to be Ryan friendly, Ryan not friendly.
Well, it is equipment, but I don't think you'll hate this.
Okay. So,
if you have a power cut in your house, right?
You underestimate just how much I hate it. But we'll
I know.
Yeah.
If you have a power cut in a nano light, you're going to hate this one. If you have a power cut in your tank, the only thing that matters is water movement, especially in the UK,
Yeah,
when the chances are the power is going to be out for 10 minutes. We don't really get long power cuts here. We rarely get power cuts at all, to be honest. But in the UK particularly, you're likely, all you need is a bit of water movement. And anywhere in the world, all you need, the most important thing is water movement.
Yeah.
And most power solutions are battery backup solutions are quite expensive. Two Little Fishes of Julian Sprung fame has announced what they call the Two Little Fishes Little Lifesaver Pump. And this is,
I've seen this.
I think this is absolutely wicked. So this is it's an air pump.
Keep talking, I can hear you. I'm just going to close the door quick because I can hear noise in the background.
I think this runs on an air stone. I didn't know, there is a video that says it, but I've just realized I didn't watch it. But it's an air pump, so it will give localized oxygenation. But the really good thing about this, first off, it's $27, which is amazing. Anybody can afford that. If you've got a reef tank, you can afford that.
Yeah.
Whereas 200 quid for the Ecotech one or whatever it is, you should still buy that. But I get why you might not want to spend that much money on it. But this 27 quid, you can buy it, and it's a lithium battery.
Yeah.
So that can stay charged, which is so good. It can stay charged all the time. It only draws 2.5 watts as well, and so it can run for 12 hours. Or you can have it in alternating mode. And I don't know if that goes on for a minute and then off for a minute or whatever, but that doubles the time it will run for. So 24 hours. Sorry, 12 to 16 hours on full, 20 to 22 hours on intermittent. Brilliant piece of kit. Now, if that, I don't know if they'll bring that to the UK, but if they do, I will have one of those in my fish cupboard with all the other fish tank crap.
But it's not automated though, is it? It doesn't turn on automatic.
No, you have to be there to. I suppose you could have it running 100% of the time, but no, you would have to be at home to turn it on. So it's not as good as an Ecotech battery backup, for example, or a proper battery backup solution. But that's brilliant. Used properly, it's fantastic.
Yeah. I agree.
Do you see? You don't hate that as much as you thought you would, do you?
I don't hate it, and I think it's. Yeah, no, okay, I'll give you that.
Completely indifferent, to be honest, though.
Yeah.
Well, that is the end of the news.
For someone that claimed there was so much news, there was like 3 things.
We could have talked about that stuff for a lot longer, really.
The
the tariffs and the Finding Nemo Act, in particular, were probably deserving of more time. But there've been, I don't really want to go into the tariffs thing. I've seen a couple of videos talking about it in our hobby. It's quite a divisive subject. People probably aren't going to like a British person's perspective on it necessarily.
I agree.
And I don't really want to go into it. It's economics rather than politics, but it is.
And
politics.
It doesn't affect us either. So we're not.
Well, not so much. No.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely that. Well, you never know. There could be some sort of unforeseen knock-on effect, but in
the terms of our hobby, you mean? Yeah, it affects the UK as a country. But anyway, look, I don't really want to go into it. There are. What's the Canadian guy, Nicola Marion, Aqua Splendor has done a video on it, and Reef Dudes did a live stream on it as well. So if you want to go and watch stuff in the fish world about that, those are the 2 that I'm aware of. I don't want to go into it.
Sounds good.
Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Ryan?
No. Do you want to know what the ironic thing is? I've had 5 messages from people and 62 emails.
62 emails.
That's because of eBay. So
I see.
All of this stuff that was on eBay sold. So it was just funny because I looked at it. I opened my phone. I was like, Have people taken the piss? have they done this as a joke? And then I opened it. I was like, oh, it's eBay. So
I've had a WhatsApp.
Have you? Is it from me or from your wife?
Yeah, I'm going to go and tell her off. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining. Thanks for putting up with the negativity. I'm going to try to get. So next week there's no live stream because I'm away. But the next one, I'm going to try to get Parker's Reef on. I need to message him. I probably won't do it tonight, but if you're watching, Sam, which you won't be, then I'm going to message you and we'll arrange a time. It might not be in 2 weeks' time. He might not have his diary available, but we'll get him on because I think that.
What time would it be in Australia now?
Morning. Hey Google, what time is it in Sydney?
The time in Sydney, Australia, is 6:02 a.m.
6:02 a.m. Oh,
on Sunday. It was on Monday.
Yeah. Well,
It'd be 6 in the morning it'd be 6 a.m. on Monday morning. That is a big ask.
It would start at 4 a.m. Oh dear, I don't know. I'll ask him in that case. He might say no. I'd say no to that.
Yeah.
But I was on.
No,
I don't know. I've seen anyway. We'll see if he's up for it. And oh god, that's a bad timing. Might see if we can. I don't know. We'll work something out. I'll message him. I'll see what he says.
The only thing we could do it an hour later, which we did. We used to do it an hour later anyway, didn't we? But that's still 5 in the morning.
If we, in fact, so I have every other Monday off work now. So if it coincides with that, I don't need to get up early. So cool. Anyway,
you have every other Monday off work.
It's amazing.
Hell. It's all right for some, isn't it?
It's the best thing ever. Anyway, right. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining. Catch you in 2 weeks' time.
Bye.